It's May 27th, 2020. It's 10 a.m. This is a special meeting of the Jefferson County PUD for the purpose of a staff presentation of the first quarter review. I'm Dan Tupper, District 3 Commissioner, President of the Board. As per the Governor's proclamation, and in response to COVID-19 pandemic, Jefferson County PUD is no longer providing an in-person room for meetings of the BOC. All meetings will only be accessible remotely via WebEx and otherwise informed by order, unless otherwise informed by order of the governor. All participants will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the proper time to speak. Use *6 on a phone to mute or unmute during a call if you're phoning in. So with that, first item on the agenda, actually, let's go ahead and have commissioners' introductions to verify we have a quorum.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Jeff Randall, Commissioner, District 1.
And Dan Tupper. We have a full board, so we have our quorum. So with that, we have the agenda. We have an agenda in front of us. One thing I would say is I've had a request by staff to change our way of comment during this one. So I'll give you a brief rundown, and then maybe I'll have Kevin come on and discuss a little bit before we actually approve the agenda to make sure all the commissioners are in agreement. What we're going to do is we're going to try and hold all public comment till the end. And during the course of the presentation, the commissioners, they'd asked if we could wait till each individual presenter finishes their little piece before we ask questions, but we're free to ask questions anytime we want. I'd ask, and then Kevin's going to talk a little bit about the logistics of how everything will work. So is that okay with the commissioners to go ahead and let Kevin give a rundown on how everything's going to work before we approve the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good plan.
So go ahead and give us your rundown, Kevin, before we, in case we do need to add or subtract anything to the agenda. Let's go ahead and hear your recommendation.
Okay. This meeting is to update the commissioners on where the PUD is in regards to capital work and budget. Will moderate the meeting. He will introduce each staff member before their presentation. Commissioners can ask questions at any time. Attendees, please keep your questions till the end of the presentation. Will read the chat and or emails at the end of the presentation if people can't get in and want to comment that way. And this is our first presentation this way, where we're going to do a slideshow. There's each staff member has a presentation. So let's see how this one goes. I think it'll go well. I do think this is very important for the commissioners to get a feel for where we are during this COVID-19 outbreak and the great work that staff is doing to accomplish everything that needs to be done. So with that, Dan, I turn it back to you.
So the only item we have on the agenda is the presentation of the first quarter review. So commissioners, is there anything else, or staff too, is there anything else that we need to add or subtract to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, I would entertain.
This is Jeff. I just wanted to say, as long as any of the public that are here that have a chance to comment at the end, I think that's the only other thing I would ask for. But it sounds like we're building that in.
Okay. So with that, is there any? I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It is approved. With that, I'll pass it off to the manager.
Okay. This is our first quarter review. I would like to take a minute to thank not only staff that's participating, but at this meeting, all employees of the PUD. They have done an outstanding job during these times, and they need to be recognized not only by us, but by the public. So
You have your mic on. I wonder if you could mute it. It's the dog.
Somebody has a dog.
It's Ken. I just muted him.
So with that, Will, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Kevin, you're up first.
Okay. One of the one of the projects we've been working on that has generated a lot of community outreach is the drive-in Wi-Fi's. We worked in conjunction with primarily the school districts, but the city, the port, and the county have also been involved helping us. So this was a great project for the PUD. We've helped out some people, and we continue to add infrastructure as we can. We are meeting with the school districts and the other agencies regularly, trying to do what we can during these times. So again, thanks to staff for the hard work they've done on this project. Okay, Will, I'm done.
Okay. So now we've got Melanie Patterson, our Human Resources Manager.
Hi, everyone. So I am going to start my part of the presentation off with some of our most recent hires that we've had at the PUD. So the first one is April Owen. She's a customer service representative on our customer service team. She was hired at the end of December, but it was very end of December, so we're saying it's a first quarter hire. And next is Jesse Bland. He is a meter reader. So he was hired in February 2020. And despite all the changes that we threw at them, or that 2020 threw at them, they've been doing a great job to get ramped up quickly. So we're really happy to have had them join the team. So some of the recent and ongoing projects that I've been working on, as well as other staff, is a lot of it has had to do with COVID-19. As all of us are aware, there was this need in late February to put some safety measures in place. And so we did that, communicated to the staff, and then by early March to mid-March, there was this urgent need to have as many people work from home as we could. So our IT team, Chris and Rita, they got everyone up and running really quickly to work from home. And as you know, at the last board meeting, we did propose a telecommute policy that would make the telecommuting arrangements more possible on more of a regular basis as opposed to a temporary basis. So that has been successful for us, but there's been some behind the scenes work too with having safety measures, or Kevin and I have worked to keep the staff updated on where we're at with COVID-19 and where our response is. And so that's been a large part of the first quarter for me. Another thing that I had worked on with our bargaining team was IBEW negotiations. I thought I would have a little bit more to report on with this, but not quite there yet. So hopefully by next board meeting, we'll have some more updates on that. One other thing that we've done recently was the safety committee, as well as Jimmy Scarborough, worked on updating our safety manual. So we worked with ESCI to get that updated. So it's the safety program manual as well as the T&D work methods guide. So that's ready now, and that will be in the hands of employees in the next couple weeks. And then we'll have all employees sign off that they've read and understand the new manual, and then go from there. So we're pretty excited that we were able to get the safety manual updated. So going over to the right-hand side of my slide, current recruitments that we've been working on. So the first one is the power director, and we had posted the power director position, I believe, in early February. And so far we've had a couple rounds of interviews, and we had interviews last week was our most recent round, and we've decided to, our interview panel has decided to meet at some point this week to discuss the interviews. So we're not exactly sure what direction we'll take, but we do have a meeting upcoming this week, so we should have more of an update after that. The next recruitment is for a pre-apprentice. So in October, we had hired 2 pre-apprentices to the team. One of them is no longer with the PUD, and so we will be replacing that position. That position hasn't been posted quite yet, but it'll be posted by the end of this week, and then we'll start recruiting for that position. All right, so going back to the left-hand side of the slide, actually, Will, would you mind turning the presentation to the next slide, please? So another upcoming project that we have that is huge on the horizon is we're looking forward to bringing some of our staff back into our buildings. And I do want to start this slide off by saying that this will be a slow, measured, and careful approach. We're not intending to bring everyone back all at once, but we are looking to, in the next several weeks or next couple weeks, to have some employees return to the office 1 to 2 days per week if they wish to. If employees are not comfortable with coming back, or they prefer to work from home throughout this time, that's completely okay. But we do recognize that there's some employees that have a need to come in to get more supplies or to kind of regroup. So we do want to put some safety measures in place so that we can't have them come back. So what we're thinking that will look like is that employees can return 1 to 2 days per week. Their manager has to coordinate a rotating schedule with their team so that we don't have team members all coming back on the same day. And managers will also need to coordinate with other managers in that same building to make sure that there's not too many people from 2 different teams coming in. So we're trying to minimize the amount of people that are in the office. And we are talking about putting some guidelines in place, such as if you're sick, stay home. And that also includes if you've experienced symptoms of COVID-19 in the last 72 hours, that an employee has to self-certify that they have not experienced those symptoms in order to enter the building. If they have, they are prohibited from entering the building, and they do need to stay home and reach out to their manager for the next steps. We do feel it's important that we can keep that 6 feet of physical distance in the office. So we're thinking of putting some measures in place, such as putting tape on the ground and encouraging WebEx meetings and virtual meetings so that we don't have multiple people in an enclosed space. So we are encouraging virtual meetings throughout the next several months. If employees want to wear masks or gloves, they're absolutely encouraged to. And for those who are in the field, if they are on a job site that falls under phase 1 guidelines, they must abide by those guidelines. So wearing a mask, or if that means putting their name down for the contact tracing, we do ask that they're abiding by those guidelines. And there's some other.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Yes.
Reading the paper this morning, Dr. Locke, the public health officer for Jefferson County, is making a stronger statement about the wearing of masks. And he is recommending, and the wording is a little funny, but he's recommending the requirement in businesses that employees and customers wear masks. So I'm wondering why our guideline here isn't more strongly worded to be consistent with what the public health officer is recommending.
And so far, none of this is set in stone quite yet. We're still in the planning phases of putting these guidelines into place. And this was based off recommendations from the Department of Health. And I hadn't seen that yet from Dr. Locke. You said that was this morning that was published. Okay. I'll take a look at that, and I definitely think it's something we should consider. Thank you.
Commissioner Cooper. On that meeting yesterday, the paper reads is kind of interesting, like Ken said. They're not going to, at the moment, they were not talking about mandating it. They're going to come up with some guidelines for the county where businesses pledge, and there's still some question as to what kind of enforcement mechanisms, how the county is going to deal with a mandatory rule, because it's not really going to be mandatory. It's going to be more of a suggested type of a thing. So I'm not sure how they're going to word it them, myself at this point. So again, for Melanie, that's one we'll just have to follow and see what the county decides and how they're going to enforce. And as an organization, I guess we're free to make our own choice at some point. I don't know what the enforcement mechanism would be. As long as it's employees, that's a little different, I suppose, than if we had the public involved. So again, that was what they talked about at the meeting. They're still working on how they're going to enforce this.
Okay. I will definitely look into that. And as I mentioned, these are still the considerations that we're coming up with. We were thinking that in a couple weeks is when we would start transitioning some employees back, but as I mentioned too, I don't feel that we're in a rush to rush everyone back at the same time. So I do think we need to have a careful approach and consider what Dr. Locke's recommendations are. And so I'll take a look at that and work with the management team to finalize some of these guidelines. And that was about it for me for now. Any other questions?
Melanie, this is Jeff. Very nice job, thorough presentation, and great work on a lot of complex stuff. If I could, Kevin got off way too easy, and I had a question for him that I didn't realize until he was done. So Kevin, could you just remind us how many wireless hotspots the PUD is set up throughout the county now?
Will, can you go back to your hotspot map?
Yep.
And so I think we've set up 12 hotspots right now, Jeff. We have several in the works, and so some of these may not be completely set up, but the equipment's been ordered. Lori Ray is doing a great job of coordinating with a lot of different people trying to get all of this stuff done, and we have been successful. This has been a good project. The team has come together and done a lot of work very quickly. And as you know, or can see by the map, we put some hotspots in areas that we don't have infrastructure, or we really don't have broadband infrastructure there, but we do have, for example, maybe some SCADA equipment that if you look at the Gardner, that's actually for SCADA equipment that we've utilized it not only for SCADA, but for Wi-Fi hotspot. Marrowstone Island, we started to utilize the fiber that CenturyLink had installed. We jumped on their fiber to get to our fiber, the dark fiber lease. So it's been interesting to put these things together and to stand them up. We've had good support throughout the county, and this will continue to grow as new equipment comes in and as we get requests coming in to help out different areas.
Okay, I have one more follow-up question. So we've set all of this up for the coronavirus timeframe when people are limited as to where they can go and so forth, and they're more reliant on remote communication. Has there been any thought as to whether these hotspots will continue after this crisis is over and we're back to normal, whatever normal is, or what are your thoughts on that?
So, and this is rough numbers. We're meeting with the school districts probably every 2 weeks. Not only Jefferson County school districts, but regional school districts, Clallam County school districts. There's some ideas, or there's a lot of talk going on that the schools will not be back in session in September, or if
Wow.
they are back in September, it will be limited. So for at least through 2020, these hotspots will be up and available to the public. Moving forward, we may change things. If the school districts do, they're calling it a a modified or kind of a hybrid school year this fall. So we not only have these, but part of what we're setting up is to enable this fall, if they don't go back to school, we would actually put more out and try to start hitting some areas. We're putting together things to help maybe the Brennan and Quilcene area, that Discovery Bay areas, hit the more underserved places.
Okay, thank you for going into a little bit more detail, and I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
So what about COIL, Kevin? Was talk at one point COIL or Brennan, Warren Brennan? What came of that?
So, COIL, we have some specialized equipment coming from CenturyLink. We will down on COIL, and Lori Ray will know the address. It's like 30, gosh, I'm drawing a blank. We're hoping that equipment comes in within 2 to 3 weeks. We'll install a hotspot down on the COIL for that community to use. And we do have some other options down there that we're talking about possibly deploying.
And I did want to say also thanks to Melanie for all your hard work. And I did see your name missing off of the new hire list. Or you went about 6-month anniversary. How's it going?
I am coming up on my 6-month anniversary. Yeah, I was hired in December, so I guess I'm still new myself.
You going good?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's been a unique challenge with what 2020 has brought all of us, but it's been good.
Thanks for your hard work. That's it for me.
Next presenter, Will.
Chris Lott, IT manager.
Hi there. As you can imagine, everything that we were working on in the first quarter got hugely overshadowed by the push to get everyone working from home and to adapt to the new workplace environments. So we sent home 31 employees to work from remote, and we did the majority of them over the course of about a week, which was pretty intense. We were able to send them home with all of the same access to phone services that they have in the office, so that they can take, most importantly, customer service calls from home. The billing team has gone home, and they continue processing billing activity the way they always do. Our engineers are working from home and performing all the same services that they were in the office. And Not much changed for email and messaging. Those things are largely the same whether people are in the office or not. So while the intensity of moving people from the office to home offices was pretty high, a lot of the work was just moving equipment and making sure that people could connect to the office. 'Cause a lot of these technologies were already in place and enabled for remote work. Will, can you move to the next slide?
Mhm.
There were a few things that we had to add to facilitate working from remote. Obviously, the commissioners are familiar with the digital signatures at this point. That was relatively quick to implement, but I guess the biggest factor there was the change of the PD policy, so thank you for making that happen. And we used a smattering of individual conference accounts before we all moved to work from home and online meetings, but now we have a corporate WebEx account so that everyone who needs one can have on the same account and work under the same umbrella. Internally, we're also using some new technologies. People seem to be pretty happy with Teams, and Will likes to point out to me that there's more that we can be doing with Teams. So that's something that we're going to work on in the future to integrate it a little more with our existing infrastructure. And because Brita and I are not in the office much anymore, we did have to add some monitoring to the equipment that's on site at Four Corners so that we have a window into what's going on in there. Normally, monitoring that we had to do from remote was minimal because we'd be in the server room at least once every day, but now it's a lot less frequent. We did see a lot of customers move to Smart Hub. I wish I could give you some metrics on that, but the opportunity to pull out that data, I waited too long to try to do it. Maybe Gene has more info on it. But our customer service and billing and accounts payable teams are now working more with digital documents, going a little bit more paperless. That's something that we've kind of been pushing towards, but maybe struggling with a little bit for a while, hanging on to some of the paper, and this pushed us in the other direction. I think that's pretty much all I have for the work from home effort. Let me know if there are any questions.
Chris, this is Jeff. Just really appreciate all your work. And of course, I'm not seeing it except from my perspective, but it seems like you and Rita have done a great job in helping everybody do their job. So, and keeping it fairly transparent. It's almost like this is the normal way. So good job.
Yeah, and for customers, that's what we want most of all, is we don't want to interrupt their experience.
Chris, this is Dan. Are you there? I just want to say thanks for your help. I know I need a little bit of tech support through this, so appreciate all that you guys are doing, Rita, both that you guys are doing. One question, and it's one maybe the public would have later on, is, cybersecurity. Are we still in good shape there with this new systems and everything we're going to, as far as being hackable, or people just we're in a good place.
We did take that into account pretty seriously in moving folks to their home offices. It's one of those things that I would like to include, but I feel it's not a good idea to record all of our cybersecurity efforts here. But I'm always happy to discuss that outside
Yeah,
of
I
a
wasn't
public
looking for
meeting.
details. I just want a bit of just a security that people know that we're thinking about it.
Yeah, it's definitely on the forefront of our approach to working from home.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Ken, any questions?
I just want to add another thank you to Chris and his group, Rita, for making this possible. And if you can figure out how I can avoid getting a split screen so that I look like I'm a split personality, I'd appreciate it. But we can talk about that offline.
Hey, Ken, do you have two computers with both webcams on?
No, I do not. And this is the only platform where that happens.
Okay, well, it's not telling you you've got a split personality or anything.
I thought I just said that.
It wasn't you.
Okay. All right. Samantha Harper, our water superintendent. You're up.
For each and kind of tell you what the status is. And Bill is on the line also to help where I do a little misstep. So we'll start with Kilsit Harbor. This is, as most people know, it's a washed-up project, and each of our branches of utility, except for septic, has a part in this project. So I'll give a little status overview for the water portion. So we have installed, or the contractor has installed all of the water main on the bridge, as you can see from the picture on the slide. And we have made all the new connections to our existing main on both the Indian Island side as well as the Marrowstone side. And so we are currently going to pressure test the water main either today or tomorrow. And then the next is to take water samples prior to putting the water main online. And we're tracking, so okay with the budget. We're just waiting to get some actual cost in from our estimates to see exactly where we are. And so our next project is the Reynolds Well project. It is one of our wells in Bywater, which is an emergency source, which we are obtaining permanent source status from Department of Health. And so during our review with Department of Health, we received a few comments that we needed to address. And so we are working on addressing those comments from Department of Health, and we're hoping within the next couple of months we have them all addressed and can continue our approval process with Department of Health. With this well online, we will be able to get more connections in our Bywater water system. And so SCADA replacement for Sparling Well, this is my favorite because it's our first complete capital project of the year. So I'm clapping, but nobody can see me. So this project, we installed 2 mission control panels. They are our SCADA provider on the water side at one of the reservoir sites for Sparling and one at Sparling Wells. And now we're able to communicate via our cell phones and remotely on the water levels of the well and with the water treatment facility. So this was a big, so we don't have to go to the reservoir site. This was a big project for us. And Snow Creek is our next project up, and we have finished 100% design for Snow Creek well replacement. We have our project approval into Department of Health for their review. And once the review is complete, we will put it out on our small works roster, and we hope to start construction in about the October timeframe for this project. Our next one up is the Quilcene Water Tank project. This project is to construct a new water tank in our Quilcene water system, and the current and the future tank will be located just behind the ranger station on Highway 101. So we have made an engineering firm selection, and our selection was BHC Consultants, and we are currently negotiating scope and fee with BHC Consultants. And the design portion of the project is funded through Jefferson County Public Infrastructure Funds, so most people know them as PIF funds, and also PUD money. And our grant deadline to finish the design for this project is December 15th, 2020. So far we're on track because we haven't started. That was a project management joke, but okay. So water system planning update. This is another big one. This project is an update from our existing 2011 water system plan. HDR is the consultant that is helping the PUD get this plan prepared. PUD staff has been working on reviewing volumes 1 and 2. Some were recruited to help Bill and I. Will has been doing a lot of help, as well as our crew has done the reviewing of some of the chapters as well. So volume 1 is basically PUD policies, regulation, operating procedures, and technical specifications. Volume 2, which Bill has done a lot of the heavy lifting, is the CIP and detailed descriptions of each of our water systems. And then volume 3 is wellhead protection plan. And so Bill and I meet with HDR biweekly to go over status and just how we're going to present using a virtual platform for doing the water system. And we're envisioning multiple meetings prior to kind of go over the background of our water systems and what is in our, especially the first 2 volumes, and kind of a get to know your water systems, and prior to the final reading. So we're shooting for sometime in the August timeframe to start this tour on updating our water system plan. So I might want to pause there. That's a lot of information, and we have about 6 more. So if anybody has any questions so far.
So Samantha, this is Dan.
Uh-huh.
As you and Bill and all your crews are doing. You mentioned the PIF grants a little bit. Are there any other grants that you're looking at going after, looking at the capital projects we got coming up, or what are we in that department? How are we looking there? Is there anything out there we can go after?
So there is a free webinar, I believe it was last week. Time is a little weird for me these days, but and it was mostly about Public Works Trust Fund and grants being offered, or they're technically low interest loans being offered. And they had a construction loan option that would be the Quilcene water tank would fit. They also have a new pipe replacement loan, which could be the Coyle, Triton Cove kind of area, but Janet Cherry, I believe, from Department of Health was the one who gave the presentation. And there were, and of course, consolidation grants, but there weren't a lot of grant opportunities, but there are low interest loans. And so each of those different funding categories, like the pipe replacement, the construction, the consolidation, will have their own, how do you get the grant and what are the qualifications, webinars. And so Bill and I are looking at going to some of those to see what some of the options are for us.
There's a state revolving for it too.
That's correct.
So the reason I asked is because I'm just looking into the future. The PIF funds, I don't know if those will become available again or not. I don't think this year probably there will be any. And, the way that those are, generated is through taxes and stuff. And with the economy being down, I just, any place we can go to look other than those PIF funds, I think we definitely should put it.
Yes, that is correct.
One other question I had is I don't see any references to Coyle here. Are we doing anything with the Coyle system, or is that?
That's slide 2. That's on slide 2. But it was I just took a halftime little pause because there's a lot more information to come. So.
Sorry, I'll let you get back to it.
Oh, it's okay. But if you are ready, if anybody else has any questions at the midpoint mark. Okay, then Will, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, so our next up is starting again in top of alphabetical order, our Bywater Bay Shine Plat LUD. So this is the PUD was petitioned to form an LUD in a portion of our Bywater water system. And so our next step is to validate the petition, and then there is quite a lengthy process that Moss Adams and Joel has looked at the schedule that we've put together for getting us to the hearing section. And so we need to work through the steps after we validate the petition. So that is coming up. So hopefully by the fall time frame. And then our Coyle water system, as you kind of referred to earlier, Commissioner Tupper. And this is a great map. Eric and Alex have been working on mapping all of our water main breaks. So I like to point out that's the map on the slide here. All the red X's are water main breaks, and all of the yellow X's are service connection leaks. And so with this information and a lot of institutional knowledge here, the Coyle water main replacement would be from the hydrant on Eaton Road and Moose Road all the way to Alder and Hazel Point Road. So kind of that L-shaped figure of water main would be the replacement project that would be targeted in this Coyle water line replacement. And so the next one up is the Gardner replacement well. This project is to drill a new well in Gardner, and it would be located at the same site as our existing well in Gardner. And we currently have a notice to drill, or I know there's a proper term that Bill can help me with, from Department of Ecology, and we're looking for the fall time frame to drill this replacement well. And our next one up is Quilcene Second Source Development. So this is a project that we are developing the second source in our Quilcene water system. The well itself is located off of Highway 101, adjacent to the Quilcene Little League and Coast Seafood property. The development of the source would allow more connections in our Quilcene water system. And this is really a long-term project for the PUD. This first part is we have been assigned the application that was completed last year. It is now in the PUD's name, and we are actively working with Department of Ecology to help us lay out the process to get to the water rights, and having those in the PUD name. And I'll pause here to let Bill add anything because he has done the majority of the work on this project.
Well, first, many thanks to Jefferson County for assigning us the application. This whole water right application goes all the way back to the early 90s when there was a fuel spill in downtown Quilcene that fouled many wells, and the community gathered together. It was a very long, drawn-out process. I think Gary Rowe may know much about it. Anyhow, the application foundered in part because in-stream flows needed to be set on the Big Quilcene River. And even though a pump test was performed and all those steps were taken to get a water right application process, it languished. By circumstance, the county asked me in 2017 if this was any interest to us. And I said, it has a priority date of 1994 in Quilcene. Yes, please. And so we started that process off and finally got the right assigned to us by Jefferson County last year. So we have access to a well. It's about a quarter mile away. There's a possibility too that we can use these rights in tandem with our existing rights at the Forest Service. So this presents a long-term opportunity that just almost fell in our laps. It's a longer story than that, so I'll just let you go.
Yes, well, it's the Cliff Note version. I don't know if they make those anymore, but and then our to round out our 2020 is Triton Cove Williams Addition well house replacement. So this is exactly what the name says, is we are going to remove an existing well house on our backup permanent source, and we're looking at placing a new prefab building and or doing a pitless adapter. And the square on the bottom is unaccounted for water in 2019. And I know there's many factors that probably go into these percentages, but one of them is leaks. And so as you can see, Quail is our highest. And so doing this replacement project is pretty important in our Quail system, and our next water system is Triton Cove. And we think we've narrowed down where a leak in Triton Cove is, and so that will be on the list for repairs as well. So that concludes our formal part of the water presentation.
Any further questions from the board? See head shaking. All good? Okie doke. Kilsett Harbor Bridge Project. We've got 3 different presenters working on this. Sam, since you just spoke, you want to speak just a little, or let's move on to, actually, let's go to Jimmy.
Sure. As Will was saying, there's probably 3 main people working on the Kilsett Harbor: Sam on the water side, myself on the electric side, and then Scott Bancroft, the project manager, ringleader of it all. So it's been a huge team effort. Thankfully, the light at the end of the tunnel is seen right now, and this time next month should be in. Everything should be final on it. So I want to highlight some of the projects the engineering and GIS departments teams have completed so far this year. This is just a sample. Special thanks to our staking engineers, Russ Miller and Jake Swan, for all their hard work, and then Alex Garish on our GIS side. First project is Adam Street in Port Townsend. This is a big step in furthering undergrounding downtown. It sets up some framework to connect Washington Street and Water Street together underground. So far, we've had the first stage of conduit and vaults installed. The next will be continuing the conduit, and then finally pulling in all the new underground cable. Another project we're working on is a new feeder out of Irondale Substation Bay 2 over to Calla Point. This first section will be installed along the airport property. It's about 2,500 feet in length. It's scheduled to start construction on the conduit and vaults here in the next week or 2. Another project that we designed and construction has been completed is a tie between Dana Roberts Feeder 13 and Hastings Feeder 12 near Safeway Gas. This is part of a multi-year, multi-stage project with the goal to have an alternate feed up to the hospital. Next slide, Will. Probably that same project is doing a line extension up to Safeway store and replacing all the primary cable and transformer that feeds Safeway. This will greatly affect the reliability feeding Safeway, and it'll continue off under Sims Way to the port. And that project, electric construction will take place this summer or fall. We're planning on PED crews installing the electric. Next project we kind of already chatted about was the Kilsert Harbor Bridge. Conduit has been installed on the bridge and the framework's in place. I think the second week in June, we'll bring our electric contractor up here who will install all the underground electric and then retire the temporary overhead poles. It's been a kind of an expensive project, estimating that one around $590,000. As Sam kind of said, we were waiting on the final WashDOT bill. And then I'd like to highlight a few of the GIS projects Alex has been working on. One project he's been working on in conjunction with our meter readers is, as they're out locating underground electric, is to collect the data as they're locating it so they can import it into the map, which will increase the accuracy of our maps. He's also been working on an interactive water service map, so with customer confidence reports with Sam and the water department. As Sam also mentioned, he's been working with Eric Story to collect all the water breaks so they can plan future projects. That's what I have real quick. Any questions?
I had a question. This is it's either for you or Kevin. I was just noticing along Water Street, kind of across the street from Quimper Mercantile, a couple of the utility poles that are still standing there that look like we've gotten all our power off, and it looks like all the communications have come off. And I know there's a few other poles here and there that still have a few things hanging on them, communications or otherwise. And I'm just wondering, are those poles going to be pulled out when there's no longer anything resting on them?
Yeah, so if you notice around all those poles, they've kind of got like a temporary asphalt around them. So that was put in place so we can pull the poles out, pull the asphalt out, and then do the concrete sidewalk patch.
Okay, so that's kind of an indicator. If you see gravel or temporary asphalt or something at the bottom of a pole, it's probably going away eventually.
Probably going away. So eventually all the wood poles on Water Street will be gone.
Okay.
I know Wave's been down there working pretty feverishly lately, trying to get their cables off. And then the next hurdle will be waiting for CenturyLink.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Sure.
So Jimmy, this is Commissioner Tupper. Thanks to you and your guys for all your work you're doing. So I had a question about, this kind of budget related, maybe this is a Kevin question too, is I know we had a pretty good chunk of money set aside for O'Leary Point this year. Are you guys shuffling the deck around budget-wise? I mean, what won't happen this year the way things are going? You guys have any information along that?
Sure. So in particular, at O'Leary Point, Scott's been working with a couple of landowners so we can bring in a tie into O'Leary Point, which will help underground it. And with everything going on, and one of the landowners in particular, it's taking a little bit longer than expected. We have focused on, or kind of shifted our construction plans around a little bit this year to more focus on installation of conduit and vaults, trying to keep our local contractors busy and keep the money here in Jefferson County.
And on the Water Street undergrounding, Jeff touched a little bit on it. I know we had this year and next year same amount of money budgeted for each of those. Are we on track with that as well? Is that all tracking like you would expect?
Yeah, it's tracking pretty good. Mike just sent out a budget update the other day, and Capital Works projects are looking pretty good right now.
And then I had one last question, and that's on Kilsut. You used the term bill from the state. Is that a bill from them to us or us to them? Are we reimbursed for any of that work at Kilsut Harbor, Kevin? Or
reimbursed for any of it. We will have a bill from them for installation of the electrical conduits and water pipe on the bridge.
So that 590,000 number that's up there, what does that represent? Is that everything up till now or from the start of that?
That's everything up to now and kind of estimating the complete project cost.
Again,
Just to add on the water side, we spent about 90,000 on Kilsit Harbor last year, and this year will be about 180,000. So, and we have talked about this on the capital side for water, is starting to put maybe every 3 years, putting in however we decide to do it. I know we'll talk about it when the water system plan comes up, but putting in money for these WashDOT coordination projects, because as you can see, on over $1 million to the PUD general, and it's a big hit. So. Sorry to interrupt, Jimmy.
No, you're good. Thanks, Sam.
Any other questions? Okay. Colton Worley, SCADA and substation technician.
Hi, everybody. So our major project that we were working on has the Port Ludlow substation has been put on hold because of the COVID uncertainty. So I thought I would show you a grant that we've been working on. It's a grant for our Chimicum substation, which would be installing a new transformer bay. This project would increase the capacity and improve the reliability of the substation and tie into the project that Scott has been working on, which is the tie to Marrowstone Island. If we were successful on this bid, it would start in the summer of 2021. And the estimated project cost is just right at $1 million for right now. And it is 100% grant from the Department of Defense. So we're really hoping to be successful.
So Colton, this is Jeff. It looks like this is one of those grants that the project is intended at least partially or significantly to improve reliability for Indian Island, the Navy facility out there. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. And we're really going to push that they are served now just through one transformer and one substation. And this would add redundancy to their feed. So yeah, that's a big part of the grant, is to add redundancy to the Navy base.
Okay, and if I could ask, how did this one come to our attention?
It came to our attention just with having meetings with Indian Island. Jimmy and Kevin and Scott and I meet with them, about once every other month or so.
Okay, so basically the Navy, the federal government personnel said, hey, there may be some money out there to help certain things.
Yeah, and one of the good things, I believe it's only available to government organizations. So like a PSE company would not be eligible for this kind of grant.
Okay. And then finally, it sounds like these improvements not only would benefit Indian Island, but they'd benefit the other service area that's using the substation. Yeah, especially adding capacity to a substation. It can even help, surrounding substations by taking load off of the, so basically it would help our whole grid. Okay. Basically, we would be using federal money to upgrade a major component of our electrical grid, which helps everybody. Exactly. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Hope we can get it.
So Colton, when do you think we'll know whether we've gotten the grant or not?
I think Will might be more on the timelines. Can you answer that one, Will?
Yeah, we should hear. I think August is when we find out if we can submit. There's the vetting round in August. We'll find out if we can submit a formal application, if they accept our proposal, and then they award the grants in late September. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Okay, next slide. Oh, there you go, Colton.
Thank you. So, one thing with the, these abnormal times, we've been keeping a close eye on our loads. Thankfully, they have not changed much. So as far as, the budgeting and everything, we are within 3% of where we've been for the last, 4 years since we've been really keeping track of our loads. So I just thought it was something important to note that, we shouldn't be expecting any huge swings in revenues through the COVID. And if you guys don't have any questions, that concludes my part of the presentation.
Thanks, Colton. This is Dan. Kevin and Will, are we on schedule? We're an hour in. Are we looking good on time? Get the public be able to get in at the end and everything. Are we looking good?
I think so.
All right, thanks. I'll look back to you, Will.
Okay. Scott Bancroft, Projects Manager. You're up. Scott, are
Hello,
you there?
everybody.
There you go. Great.
Yeah, you got me good. All right. How's everybody doing today? Okay, so during the first quarter of 2020, the PUD submitted the final documents for the community solar to the city of Port Townsend. On May 7th, 2020, the PUD went in front of the hearing examiner, and the hearing examiner made a final decision on May 18th in favor of our solar project on Kearney Street near Dana Roberts. That doesn't mean we can break ground right away. At this point, we have to work on getting a grading permit, a fencing detail, a landscape detail, and a signage permit. Of course, this work relies a lot on approvals from the city of Port Townsend. And to be honest with you, that's very time consuming. There are some issues with incentives that are winding down for this project. And I've made a high suggestion to Kevin to hold off on this project until we get some incentives back and the economy turns around a little bit. Because I fully support this project, and I put a lot of energy into this to get this off the ground, because one of the main reasons I support this is the project allows people, everyone, anyone, to be directly invested in local renewable energy. So with the downturn, it's really not a good time to solicit people to invest in a community solar project. So we're going to step back, get the permits we need, and get together a bid and get this thing done right in the next, probably year to 18 months. When incentives come back, it'll give us some pluses there, and people are more willing to invest in the community solar. I would like to say thanks to Russ and Will for their ongoing help. And I would really like to give a big thanks to Sam Harper, which she's really helped me get this over the edge. I really appreciate it, Sam. Next slide, please.
You're all set, Scott.
Okay, so we had a real successful first quarter in tree trimming, largely in part due to we had a bunch of bids ready to go in November, December of 2019. So that really helped. We started out the year doing trimming West Valley, south of Quilting End Coil, and Coil Phase 2, I called it. We also had 36 days of time and materials work throughout hot spots in Jefferson County. And all of the work that was done in the first quarter amounts to about 12% of the PUD overhead being trimmed in that first quarter. The tree trimming on Coil Phase 3 will start in June, which will pretty much end the coil trimming for a cycle. We'll be completely done out there. Also due today, this afternoon, is a bid for 2.1 miles of transmission line clearing up on Fairmont Hill Road, Eagle Mount, and Rhodey Drive. And if you look at the pictures at the lower left, the PUD line crew alerted me to this situation. It was a situation where they had a down line last winter and they couldn't get in to access the down line. They did, but it was very difficult. So I got a contract tree crew in, and we cleared that all out for future issues if there's any line out any down conductor in that area again. If you go to second from left, that's a collaborative effort between Jefferson County Public Works and the PUD, clearing danger trees along the roadway, trees that could get into our lines and get on the road. So we've actually done a few of these projects with Public Works, and it works out really well. They provide the flagging, we provide the trimming. And I'd like to give a public thank you to Matt Stewart. He's really been good to work with for the PUD. The third slide from the left is our focus for this summer is going to be going around with the help of the line crew, getting suggestions, going around and trimming up in front of transformers. That's a transformer back in that corner you can barely see. And I actually don't think you could open that even if they had an issue with that transformer. So we gotta spend a little bit of time this summer going through and trimming around those and getting them freed up so that our crew, if there is a problem, can go in there and access it without any hindrances. They can safely get to it and do their job. And the last picture is a contract crew that fell a danger tree near our power lines out in Quilcene. And that's all I have. But I would like to say something about the WashDOT projects we have. There are 3 more in Jefferson County that's coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. The Shine Creek, which really doesn't affect us much. The Leland Creek will affect us, but they haven't really given us any detail on what they're doing there yet. And Chimacum Creek. Chimacum Creek, they're going to install a bridge, and that will definitely affect us. Because we have, in that area of Chimacum Creek, we have a water line, we have overhead conductor, and we have fiber optics underground. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Scott, are there any other culvert replacements besides that Chimacum Creek one that we should be on our radar?
The Leland Creek is coming up as well, but they haven't given me too much detail on what they're going to do there yet.
Also, the Hilda Road job there, how's that progressing?
We have got the bores complete on Hilda Street and Sims Way. The water line has been connected, and we are in the process of bridge removal.
One last quick, and maybe this is a quick question for Jimmy. How are we tracking on outages? Are we on track what normally we would expect to see, or are we ahead of the game? Where are we at on outages?
It's seeming about normal right now. Outage season's kind of changed right now. Going in the summer months, we start seeing more and more underground faults, and we've seen a few in the last couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. Good job.
Scott, this is Jeff on the community solar project. Really good job to you guys and staff. I was involved in that just a tiny bit and saw the tremendous challenges that were kind of being thrown at the PUD staff on that one. And you guys just really stuck with it and didn't get, maybe you got frustrated, but you didn't show you were frustrated, and really good job of sticking with it. So I think Kevin sent me a copy of that hearing examiner decision, which I unfortunately haven't had a chance to look through. And my one question is, are there any time limits that the hearing examiner imposed that said this conditional use permit is good for X years, X months, and if not constructed, this conditional use permit expires, or do we have to apply for an extension? Is there anything like that in the decision?
All it has in the decision on number 17 is the CUP approval normally expires within 3 years of the effective approval date.
So it does say that.
Yes.
So we've got 3 years basically to get the thing built.
That's exactly right, and we will do that.
And that 3-year date is from the hearing examiner's approval, not from any, we still have to go through these other hoops of getting sign permits and fence designs and other stuff. Basically that date started May 18th or whatever that date was of the issuance.
That's correct. I'm actually meeting with the city of Port Townsend in about 2 hours to go over the next steps of what we're going to do with this project.
Okay, great. Well, and I was kind of lamenting the whole thing on how the community solar incentives were vetoed by the governor, the extension. And Kevin, I think, really wisely pointed out that it's had such strong support in the past, and it was vetoed because of the budget situation with COVID and other stuff, that it's very likely they're going to come back. So Kevin was taking the long view on this thing, and I think that's the right thing to take, or the right view to take. So thanks again, everybody, and hopefully we can get this thing done before too long, and then hopefully we can do something else like it in other parts of the county, so other folks can be closer to projects like this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Ken, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I'm impressed.
Thanks, Ken. Okay. Lori Ray, our operations assistant. You're up.
Well, hello. First of all, I wanted to apologize for my math error. The broadbands we completed have been a total of 7, not 6. We've had 4 line extensions with 3 consumers completed. The Water Street project is still pending. It is getting resolved. We had placed a cabinet in the tunnels, and there was some controversy of where that placement of that cabinet was. We are in the process of moving that cabinet, and hopefully soon that will be completed and ready to go. As far as work orders, as you can see, we're up on all 3 that we track. As far as electric, we believe the increase is due to the increase of rates as far as April 1st. So there was an increase of people coming in and trying to get their quotes. Broadband, there was an increase, and a lot of that was NOAANet's request for, they got an increase of RFQs that they needed to fulfill. And then as far as the water, Samantha just thought it was just more interest in getting service. Aid, there was increase of aid, of course. A lot of those people who requested the services did pay for that. And then as far as the broadband budget, as of the end of March, we have almost utilized all those funds. So it's at $111,469. And a lot of that was due to the Wi-Fi that was put in the community. So hopefully we will get some FEMA money for that. And then we are also in the process of requesting the PIP money back, of $60,000. So, and that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
So Lori, this is Jeff. It sounds like we've done these Wi-Fi hotspots during the coronavirus, and we're looking to try and get some reimbursement from FEMA. Is that correct?
We're hoping to, yes.
Okay, great. Good idea.
Any other questions? Okay, going to move on. Thank you so much, Lori. Don McDaniel on our building.
Good morning, everybody. Well, the good news is we're back under construction. Our total budget was 4.2. Year to date in 2020 is 1,000,001.3. Total expenditures, including all the soft costs up to the year to date, is 1,000,071. Superintendent went back to work actually on the 27th to get the site ready. We had a full crew back at work on the 29th. We put together a COVID operations plan developed prior to the first day of construction. We filed that plan with the Public Health Department here in Jefferson County and is posted on the job site. And we're doing things such as temperature testing, using masks, social distancing, daily interviews, and scheduling people in and out. And we can have up to 15 people touching the project per day. We started construction meetings again on the 29th. I will say that overall material acquisitions have been pretty darn good. On-site inspections and material testing that was originally on the schedule are back on the schedule, and we're keeping up with those. Things like electrical, painting, HVAC, plumbing, those kinds of things are back on the schedule, including things like sheetrocking. Siding and painting are further down on the list, but they're back on the schedule. The only possible delay we had in materials was there's some roofing installation that we're still checking on, but we're going to try to keep the schedule where it is, but we'll see how quickly the roofing installation gets in. We're looking at a project completion date at the end of November, but I will say we're seeing about an 8 to 11% reduction in output based on the things that we're doing for COVID-19. And if you project that out, if that will remain the same, and we hope it gets better as we move through these phases, the completion date could shift as far down as December 15th. We'll keep you updated on how that goes. That's the end of my report. Any questions?
Dan, thanks for all your hard work, Don. Were there any, as they've been going along now, any substantive changes architecturally that they've run up against, or is everything working out the way?
Yeah, you know, minor stuff. We had one wall that needed to be fixed, but so far that's it. A couple of little minor things that are pretty customary to most things that go on during a construction project, and we handle those at the construction meetings and fix them. Nothing substantive.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
Don, this is Jeff. I drove by the site yesterday and drove down the access road to the neighbors a little bit, and I think it's going to really be a handsome building. I think it's really going to look intentional when it's all done, kind of go with the existing building that we have. I think it's going to look really nice on the site, kind of in the center of the site. I'm really excited to see it go forward.
Well, and there's lots of PUD folks that are helping on the construction project, Scott and Sam and Allie and Lori and Annette and others that are working on various little projects throughout the whole thing. So it's helping us at the construction level stay on track.
Yeah, I'm really glad that the project is underway again, and looking forward to the end of the year when it will be completed.
Believe me, you and I are on the same page.
Okie doke. Thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Allie, you want to talk about purchasing so far?
Installed, including.
Allie, you were muted. Can you start over? Okay. Sorry about that.
Yep, sorry. So getting started to cover the first quarter and what the PUD crews, including contractor and line crews, have installed, about $364,000 worth of inventory. And kind of comparing that to the last 4 years, it's pretty even. The slight increase, I believe, would be to, we've kept on the Titan line contracting crew the whole first quarter. They were let go mid-March due to COVID, but they were there for the whole first quarter. So I think there's a little bit of an increase due to some work that they were doing. And I didn't include this in the last quarter. So just looking at 2019 at a glance, we had about $1.3 million worth of inventory going into the warehouse and about 1.4 going out. So just kind of glancing at that, pretty even there. Some changes we've seen in the supply chain due to COVID affected us pretty much in March, noticing that there's longer lead times, first with just the PPE items, the cleaning supplies, wipes and masks and sanitizer. We try to stock up on those, but a lot of my orders got canceled, continuing to get canceled. So it's been hard to get a hold of a lot of those PPE items. And now as we're progressing into May and June, we're seeing a lot of normal stock items, our clothing for our employees that gets pushed out. Stock items that are typically either in stock or 4 to 8 weeks out, we're now seeing up to 26 weeks out. And a lot of that was due to our distribution centers. So a lot of our distributors stocked up on material items, but now they're starting to see the dwindling, and so they're reaching out to their manufacturers, but those have been kind of shut down, or their reduction in staff. They're not returning to full capacity, so they're seeing a lot of those lead times going pushed out. Right now I have transformers and switch cabinets and regulators out to bid, a lot of equipment that we use. Transformers, which are typically 9 to 12 weeks, I'm seeing right now are 24 weeks lead time. Switch cabinets, we're at 14 to 26 weeks. It's on the higher end, and regulators I haven't seen, so I'm anticipating those being a long lead time as well. So we're seeing a lot of stock items, a lot of normal items are now progressively getting longer pushed out. And so there becomes a focus on project planning. We're working closely with engineering, with projects, making sure our crews have material and that we're coordinating the projects when we have the material. We have kind of kept our inventory a little bit lower. And so it becomes a juggling act of making sure we have the material for our crews based on these lead times, and not just the PPE, but other items as well. So it's been a challenge, and I think leaning on neighboring utilities if we needed. We've become kind of creative in different aspects of PPE items. Hand sanitizer, that was very hard to get a hold of. We got some stuff in March, but then cannot find it. So we reached out to a local distillery, got some hand sanitizer from there, mixed it with aloe, and that has been great. And so just trying to find different unique ways to get those items to the crews that need them. I think that's that for that. Any questions or go ahead.
I don't see any. Oh, Jeff?
Allie, did you just say that we got alcohol from local distilleries and we mixed it with aloe vera to make our own hand sanitizer?
So the local distilleries were making hand sanitizer. I know the county also reached out and got some, and there's even, I've seen it actually at Costco. So it was their form of hand sanitizer. It was a little more potent, so we diluted it with some aloe, and it seems to be working out pretty well. So it seems to be a lot of, yes, it seems a little weird, but there's other utilities that are also doing it. So
that actually is the combination that the pharmacy in Port Hadlock uses. I purchased some sanitizer, and that's what it was, alcohol with some aloe in it. And as far as I know, it works fine.
Thank you.
Yep. The next slide is anticipation.
Allie, I've got one more question. Allie, this is
so we.
Sorry, just one more question. You'd indicated a bunch of delays happening on different equipment supplies. At this point, do you see that as affecting any projects or any routine maintenance or anything, or it's just something that you're having to plan for in terms of taking lead times to get things in on time?
I don't think it's delayed any projects. I see this becoming, it's going to be a while before things get back to normal. So I think it's just trying to make sure that we have material and finding different ways to, if we have to reach out to neighboring utilities. And so I don't think it'll affect any projects, but it's just making sure that we are planning and coordinating with engineering projects and warehouse. And I think that's been working out pretty well.
Thank you.
So our new fuel log system, we got this at the beginning of first quarter. It's on site. However, due to COVID, it is not installed yet. we're waiting out to see when we can get the contractor here to install it. The new system, this is actually the same system that the county has. Employees will now drive up and be prompted to enter their employee number, the vehicle number, and the odometer reading of the vehicle. Right now, it's documented by paper and pen, so it leads to errors. Sometimes things are misread or forgotten, but this will now prevent that. The fuel usage will be uploaded into NISC, which is our computer software program, during month end. Right now, it's currently a manual entry, so that will speed up the process and allow it to get done a little bit quicker. And then the employees will be locked out if they enter something incorrectly 3 times, and they will have to have our fleet manager, Kenny, reset that for them. It'll allow for more accurate use if they type in a mileage that's incorrect or if they don't use their PIN number. So we're really excited about it, and hopefully we will have it installed within the coming months. But again, it's just pending the install. And that's all I had.
Jean Hall, Customer Service Manager.
Morning, everybody. Just a low income update. In the past 6 months, we've seen a 24% uptick in the Roundup participation. There's been a 31% increase in the rainy day donations. A small part of this comes from increased Roundup participation, but the bulk of the increase, however, is due to large lump sum donations. We've seen a 22% increase in low-income program participation since last May. Roughly 1/8 of this increase has taken place in the past couple of months. I believe the bulk of the increase is due to increased outreach. Maureen is doing a really great job of reaching out to people and working with OICAP and St. Vincent to make sure that we're helping people that we need to be helping. So that's all I've got. Any questions?
Okay, Jeff.
Just Jean, I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for working with your team to make this program as effective as possible. And I don't know what's causing people to make more contributions, but it's all good stuff. And again, Will, anything you can do in your communications to let people know how those contributions go to good things and maybe plan it in their mind when they got a little extra money in their pocket that they don't need and they want to help somebody else out, I think it's really good. So thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Gene.
Okay, I'm up next. The projects that have taken up the most of my time in the last 6 months. The first was relaunching the newsletter in color with a easier to read, larger text format. We've had really good response to that so far. It's been fun to do. This month, I had the particular pleasure of driving out to visit the Lazy Sea community. And on the way, I ran into an entire herd of elk alongside the road just before the entrance. So I put them right on the cover of our color newsletter this month. And it's been fun driving around the county, going to visit all the Wi-Fi hotspots. I've been taking a lot of pictures, and we are all blessed to live in a beautiful county with lots of space that we can explore without bumping into too many other people. An ironic project that I put a lot of time into this winter and in the first 2 months was overdoing or updating our fair booth. We had broken canopies and never enough tables and not great signage. So I had all of that custom made with our logos, and I had new retractable banners made and all of these things. and we can't use any of them this year. So it was a fun project to put together. We'll use it in the future. Obviously, we didn't go to the home show. We didn't participate in the roadie parade. We won't be participating in the fair because there won't be one, or Hadlock days. It's tough for our community. I'm hoping we can take, make sure that we can make those events strong when they return. We'd also done a lot of planning, Lori Ray and Bo and a lot of the crew we had put together a program to start doing Powertown in the schools. We had just booked all the dates, and that also was canceled. But it's great. We made connections with the principals. Kevin's had great relations with the schools. We'll be able to take that up again when the opportunity arises in the future. Obviously, a lot of my time has been spent trying to communicate our policies regarding COVID-19, our closures and everything to our customers. It's been a moving target. People have been generally very understanding. I think, the entire PUD has done a great job of taking the pandemic seriously at the beginning, responding appropriately, and I've had nothing but good responses, and I've had no customer complaints come my way regarding our response to the pandemic. WebEx moderation has been a fun thing to explore, a new trick to add. Chris set everything up, and then I got to play with it and figure out how to use it. Thanks everyone for being patient. It obviously has a little bit of a learning curve. I think we've got it down well enough. Always willing to take suggestions and figuring out ways that we can improve it. Put together an article for the American Public Power Association that should be coming out soon about kind of based around an interesting phone call I received from the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas, whose municipal or whose IOU investment-owned utility was using Jefferson County PUD as the poster boy for why you shouldn't go into public power. So it was try to take kind of a lighthearted approach about, we've had our challenges, but even in my time of being here 2 years, I'm amazed at just how much stronger and more effective we are, and just what an amazing. There just aren't many utilities that have done what Jefferson County PUD has done, starting up an electric utility in the last 70 years. There have been less than a handful, so it's a great achievement. Online applications started out, because we can't have people come into the office. Melanie and I worked on an online application so that we can accept job applications easier, and then I just started moving that forward and putting together online customer service applications. The application for new service, we've already had 70 to 80 come in, so that was great to see. Trying to work out the ins and outs for new construction applications. They're a little trickier and require different payments, so we're still working on that. Searchable online agenda packets. We've had requests from customers on the past of being able to do keyword searches on all of our archive materials. We were given the opportunity to test out some free software. I've used that to update our agendas, and now they're completely searchable. We'll continue with those. The Wi-Fi hotspot promotion is still ongoing. Expanded social media. I've moved into more regularly updating Instagram and Nextdoor, as well as Facebook and Twitter. In upcoming, we've got a bill redesign that we're still working on, and we're still looking at expanding, getting more people to pay through SmartHub. I'm going to be writing an article about the Maristone Bridge project because it's such it was challenging for the PUD at times, but it's such an interesting project. visually, and because it involves all the different aspects of the services that we provide. And then I'm working more and more closely with Sam and Bill and our water department. And I really want to get more involved with water communications planning and putting together more of a plan of action to do more outreach about our water services in 2021. That's it for me for now. If you have any questions.
Hey, Will, this is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Will. Thanks for doing the work today of facilitating this, and thanks for all the hard work you do. Two quick questions. Website update. Are you getting any feedback from people about anything to do with the website, whether it's audio recordings or pictures? And I know there was some talk about dashboards over the last year or so. Are we working on that website at all?
The website, all the feedback has been positive. The dashboards was something we talked about creating internally so that we can choose a couple areas, reliability, some customer service metrics, where we could update you guys on a monthly to quarterly basis. But that project kind of got pushed back a little bit. I know Gene's been working with Mosaic, which is a new feature from NISC. And when we kind of get those capabilities up and going, I think we'll be reintroducing the dashboard, and we can probably find ways to incorporate that to the website.
Thanks, Will.
Sure.
So I have a question. There had been discussion some months ago of the commissioners having fairly regular columns in the newsletter.
Yes. So Dan submitted his first one, I think 2 months ago. We ran it for June. I had sent you guys kind of outlined some options for topics you might want to do. I would love, since we published Dan's, if Ken or Jeff wanted to do one for this month, and then whoever the other one is for the next month, and be happy to discuss with Kevin, what you might want to cover. Ken, I thought it would be great to cover your recent election to Wapooka and serving on Energy Northwest, and kind of give an update from all those statewide organizations to our customer owners on issues they might want to be aware of, and then kind of highlight your service. Jeff, we talked in the past about doing something for Earth Day with you highlighting some of the community solar bill or clean energy, but we could talk about other topics that you might want to cover. I think that would still be great, and the offer is still available. The space is open for the coming months.
Yeah, thank you. If you can send me an email and let me know the length of the article you'd like, I'd be glad to do that.
Will do.
And we'll just CC me on that also, since it's, basically just saying, here's the limitations on the article length, and I'll start thinking about that too.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, lesson learned. I think when we were about 400 words, Will, I know we had to squeeze it down a little. So was it about 400 words?
Yeah, I'll do the final word count on yours and share it with Jeff and Ken. Okay, Mike Bailey, Financial Services Manager and District Auditor.
Yeah, I'd just like to first off just start giving a shout out to my team, Nate, Melissa, and Amanda. They've really stepped up during this time, working away. We're improving our invoice processing. We used to print everything, stamp it, handwrite everything on it, send it out to be approved. They've changed everything to being electronic now. So stuff, Kevin has mentioned he's getting stuff sooner rather than later to get to process. So, it's finally moving us to become more electronic instead of being the so much paper based, which is great. I'm taking some of this time to review some of our policies and update them as we needed on how we do things. We're reviewing some of our cash reserves, different accounts that have been out in the past and how they've been done. We brought the first one to you at the last board meeting. which was the RUS funds. We moved those. The treasurer's working on moving those funds to the general fund for us, closing those accounts. Probably in the middle of June, we'll bring some more work to you, plan moving forward on how we need to move some dollars around on those. Those are just some of the highlights that we're working on right now during this time. Working with all the management team, to keep an eye on expenses, capital projects. Everybody's been doing a really good job with that. And on the next slide, Will. There we go. It just shows our, our revenues for the first quarter. Operating revenue for electric is about $12 million. Operation and maintenance expenses about a little over $7 million. Total cost is about $9.7 million. So for margins, we were about 2.7. The water, the revenues were $558,000. Operation and maintenance expense was about $551. Their total cost was $815. So they lost $122,000. Down below, you can kind of see where we are, budgets to actuals. Revenues at the end of March were about $500,000 short on the electric side. They were about $31,000 over on the water side. Altogether now through the end of April, we had a really good revenue month in April. Overall, we're about $21,000 short from our budgets to actuals. So we've kind of have been doing pretty good through April here. We'll have to keep seeing how things go. That's not necessarily how people are paid, but it's the revenue, the KWH that we're billing our customers. You can see our operation and maintenance expense on the electric side is about $611,000 below budget. Compared to our actuals, it's $134,000 below budget on the water side. Cost of service on the electric side is about almost $1 million less than what we had budgeted. On the water side, it's closer to just being $14,000 below budget. For the margins, we're about $600,000 above through March 20, and we're about $105,000 below or difference on budgets to actuals on the water side. So that's really all I have, unless you guys have questions.
Thanks, Mike. We got about 15 minutes left, so how many more?
That's the end.
So we want to throw it back to Kevin.
Will, have you received any chats or emails? Does the public want to weigh in at this time?
I haven't received any communications from members of the public.
This is Gary Roy. I'd like to comment if I can.
Go ahead, Gary.
First, kudos to all the staff. I think they've been doing a great job during the pandemic, and it looks like you're keeping everything going really well. And as a member of the public, I really appreciate all the hard work that everybody's doing on everything. I do have one real quick question for Mike, and that is, I noticed on the financial report for February and March, there was a significant drop in the tax category, tax payments, I think it was, something like that. Is there an explanation for that?
It's just when they come through. Stacy Prada, the county treasurer, has been, providing good updates on those. They are actually, April, May timeframe, we have actually been collecting more of our tax revenues.
Maybe you misunderstood my question. This is on the expense side. There's a category that's called tax expense or something like that. And it looked like it went down significantly compared to previous months and previous years for February and March.
That's partially just, that's our B&O tax, our business and operating. I really don't have a good explanation as to why, it's based on revenues, it's based on different things. So at this time, don't have a good explanation as to why there was such a significant drop in them.
So it's not expected to be ongoing then?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Gary?
No, that's it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. There's no one. Go ahead.
Anything else, Kevin?
Couldn't understand who was talking.
This is Dan.
What was your question, Dan?
Do you have any other topics you want to hit?
No, at this time, I would just like to thank all staff at the PUD. They're working hard and they're a credit to our community. Just like to thank them all.
Yeah, good job, guys. So, Commissioners.
Yes, I also want to add my thanks, but I do have a late breaking question for Mike. I'm a little confused. If you subtract the total cost of water service from the operating revenue, the difference that I come up with is $256,384. So I'm a little confused as to why the margin here is about half of that.
It could have been a typo on my part. I will look at that, Ken, and I will let you know for sure.
Mike, are those numbers all supposed to be additive and subtractive, or are they really results of other figures?
Okay, yeah. So there is the margins. You cannot actually, yes, there is. There I don't have included the non-operating revenues and expenses in here. This is just expenses and stuff. So there is some other revenues that came in to play that would have is why you're not. They don't add up that way, Ken. So it's our some tax revenues and some different things that came in that were recorded that are not showing up on this thing. I can show you. I'll send you something that will show a little bit more for you, Ken.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
So, Kevin, this is Dan. So I do have an overarching question, and that is, the trends that we're on, the first quarter, actually, all things being said, looks pretty good. Do you have a little bit of a crystal ball projection of what we should expect for the second quarter? And are we going to have a meeting set up for that today, or what's the future next steps?
So next quarter, for budget wise, I think we'll be looking pretty good. It's hard to, guess how payments are going to come in, but budget wise, we've already kind of overcome our February deficit. We had a huge deficit in February, approximately $500,000. The last couple 3 months, we're building and building. We're kind of coming closer to budget expectations. So in the next quarter, we won't make huge strides, but I don't think we'll have any losses either. So budget-wise, I'm going to say today we're going to look pretty good through the next quarter. I'm not sure when we'll set a new meeting. It'll probably be 2 months before we set a meeting for the next update. I do think they're really important to do, so we will definitely have one. I just don't know a date yet, Dan.
Hey, Kevin, it sounded like one of the things that Mike reported was that our operation and maintenance expense for the electric side was down. I thought he said something like $1 million, and I'm just kind of wondering, with those scary numbers that you were seeing back in February, have we kind of been holding off on some projects in order to just try and stop the bleeding a little bit on the difference between the revenue and the costs? Have you delayed a few things to level things out a little bit?
So not only did we delay some things with the COVID-19, we actually sent our contractor away. And that made a big difference, not only in costs, what they charge, but material and everything else. So we have not purchased a couple of the vehicles. So there are things that are on hold. We can, I doubt we loosen up through the summer very much. We are going to bring, as Jimmy said, the contractor back to finish up Killset Harbor. There's maybe one other little project, but we're going to be still a little conservative in the next 2 or 3 months just to try to make sure we're covering all of our bases.
Okay, well, thank you for helping to keep the checkbook balanced.
You're welcome.
And one other follow-up too, Kevin, this is Dan again, is this, you know, that obviously all relates to budget. So, you know, besides the quarterly update, what are we looking at for budget schedule here? I mean, any idea and what you're going to want to hear from us? Relationship, you know, to budget.
So Mike and I have started the budget. Some of the staff and managers are working on their own budgets, looking at you know, different things we need to do next year. So probably for the next 2 months, it's all in staff's hands to start putting some preliminary stuff together. But we are in the budget season, and it is part of our priorities to get done sooner than later. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Where I'm alluding to and going with this, depending on what the governor does with his proclamations and federal does, is the arrears. I'm looking at what kind of policy we may need to come up with, you know, in the near term or in the long term as it relates to, you know, revenues or loss thereof. What are policies on shut off?
So as far as shut-offs, you know, right now the governor says we can't shut anybody off. Jean and her department continue to reach out to customers. Jean will have some recommendations to all of us on, you know, how we should stretch out payments, because once everything comes back closer to normal, we're going to have to work with every one of our customers to say, okay, you know, we didn't shut you off during these times, but you have to pay up within X amount of time. We already have a lot of those policies are in place and can be activated. It won't take anything from the board. If we do deviate from those policies, let's say run the payback a little bit longer, then we'd come to the board. But at this time, Dan, I don't know if we have enough information yet to really make a recommendation to you.
Thanks, Kevin. Commissioners, anything further?
I just want to thank all of the staff for their hard work and being flexible and coping with the crisis that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I'd like to concur on that. And from not having a quarterly update not that long ago, this is really a first-class presentation. So thank you very much, everybody who was involved.
So is there any other comment out there? Anyone finally get around to being able to get email, or was Gary our only one?
Gary's the only one that I can see.
All right, well, I'm going to kind of look at that as our last call for public comment. Anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none. It's 11:54. I will put us into adjournment.
Okay, I'm stopping recording.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.